Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill, and as you can probably already tell, I am sick as a dog, so excuse my voice, which has been terribly compromised over the last couple days. But the good news is I've been on my couch watching tennis and resting because that's what you gotta do. I did go to a Yankee game, which didn't help at all, made me even more sick. It was an awful mistake, but you know, these are the things you do, and there are things that get you through it. I have this right now, and I know it sort of looks like a Guinness or something, but it's actually a nitro cold brew coffee, and so I don't know, it's made with nitrogen, and it becomes very smooth, so very good, very expensive, though. Coffee Break Tennis, don't sue me, you know, talking about coffee on a tennis show. But anyway, let's see, where were we? Lots to get to. I want to backtrack, and I want to point out three fatal, egregious errors that Rafa Nadal made that enabled Thiem to win that first set. Really bad errors, very, very important points in the match. So I want to go back and use footage to show you guys that. But we'll start off by talking about Alexander Zverev beating Dominic Theim. I have a couple points to make about that. And we'll end by looking at the Rome draw. I might go shorter than 20 minutes today, but hey, at least we have something to show for here. I wasn't always sure I was gonna make it because my voice was like, it's been kind of going downhill, but it's kind of stayed at a level where I can do the show. So that's good. I'm thankful for that. But we will talk, like I said, we'll start rather with Alexander Zverev beating Dominic Theim. So over the last, what Alexander Zverev has been doing is pretty incredible, the way he's been playing. He did not drop serve in Madrid. This is a clay court tournament, and he didn't drop serve. That's unbelievable. And you know, played a guy like Dominic Theim, and Theim, I think he got it to deuce twice, but didn't get a break point. That's unbelievable. What he's done, Zverev, it has been consistent improvement throughout this clay court season. If you go back and you take a look at what he did in Monte Carlo, a three-setter, every single match he played, 3 sets. Gilles Muller, Jan-Lennard Struff, Richard Gasquet, Kei Nishikori, who he lost to in the semifinals, all 3-setters. And then Munich, he played a 3-setter in the first round against Yannick Hanfmann, who I've never even heard of. Then he had a rematch with Jan-Lennard Struff. This time handled him in straight sets. Then in a match that I broke down, beat Hyun Chung in an impressive fashion. Why do I keep changing the way I say his name? Beat Hyun Chung in impressive fashion, 7-5, 6-2, and then easily handled Kohlschreiber in the final. So he wins Munich. Then he plays the very next week, Madrid. And like I said, this week, just dominant. I mean, let's see, the closest set he had was against John Isner, but he didn't even go to a tiebreak against John Isner. He won that one 6-4, 7-5. And that was the closest set he played. Oh, he also had a 7-5 set against Evgeny Donskoy in the first round. But consistent improvement by Alexander Zverev over the last 3 weeks, which is also notable. He's played 3 weeks in a row, and that's what happens when you have your home tournament. A lot of the time, like Federer always plays, of course, Basel, and Nadal always plays Barcelona. I know he's really he's from Mallorca, but Barcelona's the closest to Mallorca. So a lot of the time when you have a home tournament, unfortunately, a week that you would generally rest, you can't rest. That's true for Zverev in the clay court season, where, you know, he's going to play Munich. Obviously, he's not going to skip that. As a result, he's going to play 4 weeks in a row now that he's playing Rome. But the thing is with Zverev, you know, one of the major things we talk about is his long-term endurance, his fitness. And this has become very telling. what's harder, playing a 2-week major or playing 4 weeks in a row smaller tournaments where you're generally, and I'm sure he's had a few off days, but largely playing every day. A few off days, of course, he didn't win all the tournaments, so he got to leave Monte Carlo a little bit early, but still made the semifinals. And then, of course, in the last two, he did play every match. So he has had off days, but ultimately, you're playing almost every match. He's showing something to me physically right now. He is making a case to me that he's made a step up in his conditioning. And I know that he's worked very hard at his conditioning, and he has made a point to publicly draw attention to his physical training staff. One guy in particular, and I don't know his name, but you can also you're beginning to see more definition in his legs as well. So there's visible evidence. But this is big for me, what he's doing right now. And we'll see what happens in Rome, because this is just going to get harder and harder. If he makes a deep run in Rome, if he makes the final and plays, maybe Nadal in the final, he doesn't need to beat Nadal. But even going that far, it shows to me that he was able to play 4 tournaments in a row without fatiguing. It means he's probably ready to play a 2-week major, 5-set format without fatiguing. So that's the first point. I swear to God, I'm going to get sued, though, by Coffee Break Tennis. It's going to be bad. So I want to talk quickly about Theim, who upset Rafa Nadal in the quarters, and we're going to go back and take a closer look at that in a bit. But basically, I think that Theim actually made a lot of the same sort of errors tactically, or not errors, but he had some of the same pitfalls that Nadal had against Theim. Theim had those pitfalls against Zverev. And it's interesting because I know for a fact when we get to the grass court season, I'm going to end up talking a lot about serve and return, because it's so important on grass to start the point on offense. So if you start the point on offense on grass, you're going to win most of the time because it's so hard to defend. That is not the case on clay, usually. But in Madrid, my observation from this week is that in Madrid, a lot of the times, starting the point on offense and the better server and the better returner has been rewarded to a great effect. Now, that wasn't true against when Dominic Theim played Kevin Anderson in the semifinals. So what Theim did in that match, and trust me, I'm going to tie this back into the finals. What Theim did in that match is he returned serve from way far back behind the baseline, and he prioritized just making the return, which is understandable. And then what he did after that was he slowly decided, I'm going to be able to work my way back into the point against Kevin Anderson, and he was able to do that. He looked pretty good against Anderson, and a lot of people were worried after Nadal that there would be a letdown, and I agree that was definitely a concern. But he was able to hold serve pretty easily for that match, and on the return games, he had this strategy where he would kind of bunt it back. He would stand really far behind the baseline, especially on the backhand return, kind of bunt it back, but use his defense, use his movement to work back into the point, and basically win enough points that way, kind of grinding it out on the return game. It worked. So he tried to do the same thing against Zverev. Big serve, Alexander Zverev, I believe, and we're in the kilometer point in the season where I don't get my miles per hour. But, Zverev's another guy. 132, 134, the first serve at least, kind of in that range. So he's not going to be able to necessarily be aggressive on the first serve return. Understandable. But Theim was standing way far back and was kind of bunting it back. And the difference is Zverev is way too good a baseliner to work your way back into the point. Zverev was on top of the baseline, dictating, moving Theim around like a puppet on a string, really playing extremely clean tennis. At the end of the first set, unforced errors, Theim and Zverev were tied. Winners, Zverev doubled Theim. So, really cleaner baseline tennis by Zverev, but Theim was able to hold serve 8 out of his 10 service games. To me, that's fine. Not bad. Clay court match, not bad. But he wasn't able to even sniff Zverev's serve. And he just needed to make an adjustment that Nadal also needed to make, but didn't make. And that's, you got to be more aggressive on your return. You got to find a way to be more aggressive on your return. It wasn't until midway through the second set where Zverev adjusted his return position and tried to take the ball early. It was too late. He was already down a break. It didn't work, but if he could have at least tampered with that earlier, maybe he could have gotten a little bit more used to it, started to mix up the looks that he was giving Zverev. Those kind of things pay dividends. You cannot bump the ball back and expect to get the ball, work your way back into the point against someone as talented as Zverev. You can do it against Anderson, but not Zverev. That's the thing. But at the same time, I want to say that, this is the best I've seen Zverev play. He's so sharp right now. And we're reaching the point in the season where he was so excellent last year as well. Of course, he won Rome last year. But certainly Zverev has seemed to peak at the moment. Let's see where he goes from here. But I'm excited. Now I want to see Zverev play Nadal. Here's what I would have done against Zverev if I'm Dominic Theim. The biggest advantage that Theim has in that matchup is movement. He covers the court better. Other than that, I don't know if there's anything he does a lot better than Alexander Zverev. But I would say his movement is better. So I would have liked to see Theim put really big emphasis on angles in baseline rallies. Use tons and tons of angles, because when you use angles, you force you basically make the amount of court that needs to be covered in the baseline rally. You make that court larger. You open up angles for your opponent and for yourself when you hit an angle. So I would say the best way to take advantage of your advantage, which is an awful sentence, is to use a ton of angle. Against Nadal, Theim seemed to have such a clear mind, thinking about what he needed to do. I'm going to hit super heavy to Nadal's backhand until I get a short ball. Against Zverev, I didn't see that same direction. I didn't see a tactic. I didn't feel like Theim had that same direction. And also, why is he slicing his backhand so much against Zverev? That was terribly ineffective, ultimately. The one thing that he does do well when he slices his backhand is he can use it to disguise the drop shot, and he hit some dirty ones against Anderson. But other than that, his sliced backhand isn't very good. Didn't bother Zverev at all, and he hit too many of them. So there are some thoughts on that match. But Zverev was playing so well this whole tournament that you could really see this coming, believe it or not. You could see him, I picked Isner. I took it back. I didn't actually think Isner. By the time I saw Zverev get through a couple matches, I didn't think Isner was going to beat him. Isner also was kind of just a fun pick. I wanted to change it up. But Zverev has been fantastic. Okay. Looks like we are going to go 20 minutes. I just talk a lot, I guess. I don't know. Okay. So let's go to the footage, because I want to point out 3 points in the Nadal match that I think are worth going back and looking at, because they really gave... Theim was playing great in the first set, but it was a really close match. These 3 points gave Theim the upper hand, gave Team the belief and also shook Nadal's confidence a little bit. Early in the second set, Nadal was so worked up, very bothered, and I do think that Nadal's confidence, which is a fragile thing, probably the biggest flaw besides his health, in Rafa Nadal, when he'll go down as a player and we'll look back at him, we'll say Nadal's biggest problem was his ability to stay healthy. His second biggest problem is his fragile confidence. And I do think, based on the way he was hitting his backhand in the second set, I do think that his confidence was a little bit affected against Thiem. And these are the points that made that happen. These are the points that really swung this first set. So let's go back to the two, and both of them are in the two games that Thiem broke Nadal's serve in the first set. Let's take a look. Here we go. 3-all deuce. Nadal hits a serve down the tee, and Thiem can only bunt it back. Nadal steps into the court, hits an approach forehand. Now look at this. This is the Thiem, you can't really tell. It's not, you can tell actually. It's not really so pronounced that Thiem is guessing left, but take a look at how he's gripping his racket. That's a backhand grip. He's clearly getting ready to hit a backhand before Nadal even hits the ball. And then also you can see his hips completely leaning left. So right now Thiem is guessing left, and Nadal has committed to hitting the ball to Thiem's backhand and approaching the net. But that's an easy forehand that Nadal nets. And that's deuce. So that gives Thiem a break point, and Thiem gets the break. But what I think is that Nadal saw in the corner of his eye, in his peripheral, I think that Nadal saw that Thiem was leaning that way. And by the way, as you can see in this still image, this is the moment that the ball hit the net. You can see that Thiem was going to get to that ball. The thing is, it doesn't matter. You just got to hit it and make Thiem make the pass. Maybe he would have made the pass. Maybe he wouldn't have made the pass. But you can't net that easy forehand. That is an easy forehand in a huge point. Could be bigger. It's only 3-all in the first set, but a really big point. And that is an error we're not used to seeing. Credit to Thiem, though, for I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He may have read Nadal's hips. I'm trying to see. It looks like he can go either way there, but I can also see, it's hard to tell, but I could give, there is an art to anticipation in tennis. It's not normally luck. I don't fully understand it myself, but I know that there are people who are amazing at reading where a player is going to hit the ball. It's quite the skill, really. Okay, so that gets the break for Thiem, but Nadal breaks back. 5-4, Thiem serves for the first set. Nadal breaks back. Now we go to 5-all. Check this out. This is an overhead, and Nadal is down love 15. Nadal lets the overhead bounce, and what Thiem does here is pretty interesting. It's a great thing to do on an overhead. So oftentimes on an overhead, you're going to be like a soccer goalie. You're going to be like a soccer goalie defending a PK. You're going to guess one way or the other. But try this sometimes. Stand on one side, right? Position yourself on one side, and then guess the other way, right? So shade to the right or something, shade to your forehand side, and then start running to your backhand side. Good way to throw off your opponent. Hopefully, you're probably not going to win the point because you've just given up an overhead. But this is a cool strategy. Thiem does it here. Look at him on the ad court, and a video would do a better job. But he kind of runs to the ad court. Then Nadal commits to kind of hitting this overhead down the line. It seems like he thinks that he has open court. But look at Thiem here. He nets the overhead, and Thiem was on his way to his forehand wing. So once again, Thiem kind of guesses correctly here, and Nadal nets an overhead. Thiem, if the overhead went in, he would have gotten to it because he guessed correctly. But again, Nadal's down love 30 here. He just missed an easy overhead. Let's go to the next one. 15-40, later in this game. It's 5-all once again. Look how easy this forehand is. This is the one where it's like, oh, this is a pattern. This was the shot where I'm like, Nadal's having issues right now with Thiem's anticipation. Similar thing here. Nadal has Thiem all the way off the court. But if Nadal takes the ball down the line, Thiem isn't even going to go for it if Nadal hits this ball down the line. What Nadal does, though, is he decides to hit it cross court, and then I think he realizes, ooh, I should be hitting it down the line because Dominic Theim is on the full-out sprint to his backhand wing. And look at this. Nadal just nets it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable 3 errors that really could have swung this first set where both players were playing really, really well. But I think that these 3 points were so big and worth going back on and taking a look at because, you know, those points were huge. If you want to, I talked a lot about things that bothered Nadal, that Thiem was doing on a more consistent basis in my reaction video that I released after the match. So if you missed that, go back and take a look at that. Let's finish up here with a preview of the Rome draw. I'm going to go pretty quick on this. Just a couple of notes, just a couple of thoughts. We'll start with Nadal's quarter. What's interesting about this is it looks like he'll get Thiem in the quarterfinals, as long as neither of them get upset. So we'll get that rematch. I'm going to save my thoughts for that, but maybe I'll do a preview video if that matchup comes to fruition. Under Nadal's quarter is Dimitrov's quarter. Dimitrov is going to play Nishikori in the second round. God, I love these fields of 64. This tournament, Rome has it, Cincinnati has it. These are great. Second round, Nishikori against Dimitrov. That's awesome. Both of them are in, you know, kind of similar results, some good results, some bad results, if you're going to consider Nishikori's loss to Djokovic a bad result. I'm going to slightly favor Nishikori in that one, but that could go either way, of course. And then Novak's in this quarter. Kind draw for Novak. Very, very kind. He should be able to, and nothing's taken for granted, but let me go back to the draw and take a look real quick. So Novak just beat Dolgopolov, and now in the second round, he would play a qualifier. Whoever wins between Nicolas Basilashvili or Filippo Baldi. So Djokovic, luckily, should get a couple matches in here, which is good for him. And then Isner in the third round, any great returner has a good chance against Isner. So I think, you know, as far as top 10 players are concerned, Isner's a pretty good player to draw for Djokovic. So I think that Djokovic actually has a chance to make the quarterfinals. And then remember, in the quarterfinals, he might play Nishikori, who he'll have that confidence where, you know, he beat him last week. So this could be big for Djokovic. You know, there's opportunity there for Novak. So that's something interesting to look out for going in. Then you have Cilic's quarter. Pablo Carreno Busta and Kevin Anderson could meet Cilic in the quarterfinals. I guess, yeah, that's the only thing doing in that quarter. And then on the bottom, you have Zverev's quarter. Coric versus, say it with me, Tsitsipas. I know that someone said that they enjoy me saying that name. I enjoy me saying that name as well. Tsitsipas gets Del Potro. The winner of Coric and Tsitsipas gets Del Potro. That should be interesting. This is big for Del Po, just to get some match play before Roland Garros, because it's tough. He came back, played his first clay court tournament. You got to have low expectations. for that. But if he he's going to face a tough opponent. If he loses second, it's technically second round. But if he loses his first match again, he will go into the French Open without a single win on clay, which isn't really ideal. Surmountable, but not ideal. Okay, and then, by the way, just an interesting storyline. Lajovic, who beat Djokovic last week, lost to Tsitsipas in qualifying, so he did not qualify for Rome. But think about that. You have this awesome tournament, and then you have to beat Tsitsipas or you cannot play Rome. I mean, it's so hard to make these tournaments. I just wanted to say this just as an observation, because to me, this was like, I was just thinking, and Steve Flink also tweeted it, how hard it is to make these fields of 64. There are so many really good players who don't even qualify for these tournaments. Anyway, so here are my semifinals. I don't even have a graphic. Very unprofessional. Not even a graphic. But here are my semifinals. I have Nadal versus Nishikori. And then I have Cilic versus Zverev. I thought about Carreño Busta over Cilic. I'm going to go with Cilic. I think this is a fast enough hard court where Cilic's skills and his firepower will be enough there. Nishikori, I'm pretty up in the air. That quarter could be crazy. We could see something crazy out of that quarter because Dimitrov and Nishikori, such a toss-up. Clay, I see them both as hard court players, both Dimitrov and Nishikori. Their form is very similar, as I mentioned before, so I don't really know, but I kind of like Nishikori in that one. He was so impressive in Monte Carlo. So I'm just waiting for Monte Carlo Nishikori to return, and I hope that Nishikori is on the comeback trail here because that would be great, and, he's still young. So I went with Nishikori. It'd be big for him to make another semifinal. And then Cilic, I already talked about him. Zverev, playing great tennis. I expect that to continue. And Nadal, instead of, over Thiem in that quarterfinal matchup, I think Nadal makes some adjustments. I think he returns aggressively. I think he serves better, makes more first serves to Thiem's backhand, which he kept trying to do and kept missing. Which I don't think I even mentioned that. That's something Zverev did a lot. Zverev attacked Thiem's backhand return, which I don't love. Nadal tried and just missed so many. So I think some adjustments are made, and I think Nadal comes away with that one. And that's all I got. The longest Monday match analysis ever when I said it might be short. What is going on here? Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.